Ready? Mr. Meyer? Officer?
Yes, sir.
You ready?
Sorry, sir.
Okay, just making sure. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 4th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Righty. Mr. Bentley, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Tuckfield.
Here.
Mr. Marley.
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Spatafora.
Here.
Mr. Oliver.
Here.
And Mr. Bentley is present.
Okay, everybody's here tonight. That's great. Approval of previous meeting minutes. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the previous board minutes.
Motion to approve the previous board minutes by Mrs. Smith, seconded by Mr. Bentley. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Approval of tonight's agenda. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, there's no deletions, corrections. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Oliver to approve tonight's agenda, seconded by Mr. Bentley. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. All right, old business. Any old business tonight?
None this evening.
Okay, on to new business. Site plan and special land use. Maverick, located on the northwest corner of Hall Road and Card Road. Section 34, Ryan Halder petitioner. Permanent parcel 08344000007. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. As you saw, card. The property is zoned C3. It is subject to a consent agreement that doesn't really come into play this evening, but it is under a consent agreement. And we do note that the proposal would require an obtainment of a formal lot split from the parent parcel. So what they're looking to do is develop a gas station, which would be a special land use for a C3. So we're here this evening as they're requesting a special land use and site plan approval. So as you know, there are a number of criteria that necessitate going through for you to have an opinion, yes or no, on a special land use, and I'll go through some of those. So the first one being that the location, size, and character is harmonious with the development around it. So again, this is Hall Road, this is Card Road. It's a very major thoroughfare. It does match the master plan, so we would agree that it does match the character of what's along Hall Road. The proposed use shall be of a nature that vehicular pedestrian traffic shall not be more hazardous than is normal. So again, I think there are a number of gas stations along Hall Road that currently exist, so pedestrians and vehicular access is pretty established along Hall Road, so I don't think that adding another gas station would be detrimental to any of that other than what's already there. The proposed use shall be designed with respect to size, location, intensity, with site layout for periods of operation. So they do have a design feature requirement for a 6-foot high decorative masonry wall. I'll go through that as we get to the site plan as well, but they do show the wall being there on the north side of the property. However, what they're showing in their details is a paneled wall, which does not meet the ordinance. The wall shown would need to be updated to be a continuous foundation wall that we see throughout the township. The proposed use shall be designed with respect to location, size, and intensity. Again, so there's not noise, fumes, vibration, or smoke affecting surrounding areas. So this site, again, as you see, there's a big piece of undeveloped portion of this site. The wall would be to the far end of that, but they are proposing a 6-foot high wall there, but also they're proposing a green belt or a vegetative buffer just on the north side of the actual gas station itself. Again, it's part of the Planning Commission to determine whether screening that's proposed is acceptable. We'll go through that a little bit more when we get to the site plan. Typically, we would see the green belt immediately adjacent to the masonry wall rather than where they're showing it here. However, I would say that it's likely that at some point that piece would be developed as well. So you may want to keep that in consideration as you look at this. The proposed use shall be such that the proposed location, height of the buildings and structures do not interfere with or discourage appropriate development on adjacent land. Again, this use is pretty standard up and down the corridor. They're not proposing anything taller or more intense than would be consistent with Hall Road. The use shall relate harmoniously with the physical, economic aspects of adjacent land uses with regard to prevailing shopping habits. Again, there are lots of gas stations. I don't think automobiles are going anywhere anytime soon. Hall Road is one of the busiest thoroughfares in Macomb County, so I think a gas station along Hall Road is pretty consistent with the needs of the folks who drive that corridor. And then again, the proposed use is necessary public convenience. Not necessarily applicable here, but again, with vehicles driving, if you have a vehicle, unless you have an electric vehicle, you need gas. So there are some others along the corridor. You could say that there are some there, but there's none in this intersection here. This proposed use needs to be designed, located, and planned, shall be operated in a manner that the public health, safety, and welfare be protected. So we did mention the screen wall earlier, that would need to be updated. The Planning Commission needs to determine whether the proposed screening is acceptable as shown, and the Township Engineering Department had some comments regarding the access and circulation. Again, I'll go through that a little bit when we get into the site plan itself, but that should be considered when making your determination for special land use. And lastly, the proposed use shall not be injurious to the neighborhood. Again, I don't think that a gas station would be detrimental to this area. This is Hall Road, this is Card Road. These are major thoroughfares in the county and in the township. So until those items are addressed, the masonry wall, which I know that the applicant is here, they have a presentation, as well as your thoughts on the green belt. Staff cannot support until those items are met. I'm going to move into the site plan itself. So they do meet all of the dimensional setbacks. They are meeting the ordinance there. They have access points on Card Road and Hall Road proposed. They also provide cross access to the north for a future potential development, as I mentioned earlier, as well as to the west. However, the one to the west, there was comments from the engineering department that should be shifted a little bit north. So if you could see the screen, if you can see my cursor, I think the consensus is that this drive access, when something in the future is developed here, vehicles leaving this would drive directly into the pumps. It would be better, safer in our opinion, if this access were aligned with the drive aisle that's already planned for the north side of those pumps. The drive lane along Hall Road, again, this is a comment from the engineering department. Jim, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in on this a little bit, but it's located too close to the right-of-way line, which will result in difficulty maneuvering. It should be moved to the north a little bit to provide more maneuverability. Did you want to add any comments about what you're getting at there?
Yeah, I can. The way we see this is there's the potential for somebody coming out of those gas pumps headed south into that drive lane, wanting to cut over and potentially block that driveway if we have cars stacked up there. With regard to the driveway going, the access drive going to the west, Josh mentioned lining it up with that drive aisle adjacent to the parking spaces. I'm also concerned about cars coming into that development, wanting to turn left into that cross-access driveway and stacking up traffic into Hall Road. So it's both on-site maneuvering as well as what effect it might have on Hall Road itself.
They do have some bollards shown that it appears to us that are in the access path to the building, and we would like to see those removed. And a minimum of 5 feet of unobstructed clearance between any bollard face, building pillar face to the nearest point of the parking spaces must be provided for pedestrian access. These dimensions should be shown on the drawings. They do have 35 parking spaces provided when only 24 are required. A loading zone is provided that does meet the dimensional requirements of the ordinance. The applicant is asked, and they are here, to clarify how many diesel pump spaces are proposed. 4 spaces are being shown in their latest submission, but in previous correspondence with them, they did indicate that these, these are diesel pumps, largely serve trucks, would be servicing on one side only. And so it appears that a couple of those pumps may have 2 sides, but it's a little bit unclear. The lawn areas are all shown as being sodded and irrigated, and they have landscaping provided as you see here and as you saw in your packet. The Riverstone material proposed in a number of areas, but the legend shows 2 different size variations for these stones, and they must be 3 inches in diameter if they're going to be within 42 inches of a parking area. So we would like that updated as well to indicate that the stones need to be at least 3 inches in diameter. Looks like one of the categories is 2 to 3 inches. Again, I mentioned this before, the 6-foot high decorative masonry wall, it is a requirement, but the detail that they have shown in their plans is a paneled wall where a continuous foundation is what's required per ordinance. And again, the 50-foot setback from the north property line is required, and they are providing that. Again, typically, what we're used to seeing is the green belt being adjacent to that. They're offering it on the north end of the gas station portion of the site. That's up for you guys to entertain whether that's acceptable or not, as well as whether 1 row or sometimes we see 2 rows offsetting of arborvitae or things like that to block the views. They do have a lighting plan, and they do have a note that no additional light sources are proposed in the north portion of the site, and at this time they are meeting all the requirements there. It's 1 story, 29 feet. Both canopies, canopy structures are 19 feet, 3 inches. These heights are acceptable per ordinance. A trash enclosure containing 2 dumpsters is shown. It meets all zoning requirements, and they do have a sign proposed at the southeast corner of the property. It is set back adequately from the adjacent right-of-way, and the building department would have the final approval over the sign. So I went through all of these already, but I'll leave them on the screen for you to read if you would like. These are items that staff would like to see amended or revised or corrected before staff can give it support at this time. And that's it.
Petitioner in the audience. Come on up, sir. Right to there, the desk for us, please. Yep. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jamie Antonovich with Atwell, 12745 23 Mile, Shelby Township.
Okay.
So we're the civil engineer representing Maverick, here to solicit additional information, present the site plan, give a little background on Maverick, and then also present our thought process on what we proposed on a number of these items.
You want to go through your PowerPoint?
Yeah, that'd be great. We can run through that. So also here's Dave Lemons with Maverick. Let him address some of the company background, operations, and then I can get a little further into the site plan.
Normal here in our chairs.
Hey, I like a spot to sit down and take notes.
Please make sure you guys are talking into the mic, and if you could give us your name and address too, that would,
Absolutely.
for the record.
My name's Dave Lemons. I represent Maverick Convenience Stores. My address is 1629 Grand Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, 50309. And I'll give you just a quick background. I won't go through the entire PowerPoint in depth, but just a quick background of who Maverick is as an organization and a company. When we started this process in our first conversations with Josh, we were actually Come and Go convenience stores based in Iowa. And Come and Go was purchased by Maverick around September 1st of 2023. And so this has transitioned to a Maverick, and we'll be using that brand in this market as we move forward from a growth perspective. Maverick is privately held, based in Salt Lake City. We own and operate about 800 stores in 21-ish states. We have 6 currently open, or 5 currently open, another one open in another week or so in the Grand Rapids area, and we're expanding into this market over the course of the last year and a half or so. The good thing about privately held is that we are completely owned and operated. We don't franchise anything out, so we control all of our own facilities. We control all of our hiring. We have local leadership, and we also do all of our own fuel shipping as well. So we have control over that. But so I'll go through this super quick. We're about a 100-year-old company, as I said, privately held, owned by the Magalit family. Give back to the communities in which we operate. We employ about 12,000 associates over the course, or over the stores that we have. The vast majority of those are offered benefits, so it allows us to hire a much better level of associate in our stores. They're very well trained. Any given time, you have about 5 associates on site, but most of the stores will employ 15 to 20 associates. You can flip that slide. The exteriors, you're going to see metal roof elements, fiber cement, cultured stone. You're going to have a lot of glazing. I think you should have elevations of our stores in front of you. Try to fit into the communities in which we operate. The pumps out front will have the same architectural elements and match what the store looks like. From an interior perspective, you're going to see a very open and airy store. They're about 6,000 square feet. We'll have a full kitchen in every store, bakery. We offer made-to-order sandwiches, burritos, tacos, pizza, lots of fresh food offerings, and would probably differentiate ourselves from that perspective with food from the majority of operators in the community from what we offer in our stores. You'll see actually murals on the walls, and those would represent and be pictures of the area in which we operate. And so in Michigan, it would, for example, be related to the Great Lakes or outdoor water sports, etc. That's the intent. Just a couple of quick things from a perspective of awards we've won over the years. USA Today voted us the number 5 best gas station in the U.S. Newsweek ranked us in the top 15, CSP ranked us in the top 25, and we've also been awarded by GasBuddy as A+ for cleanest restrooms. So just a few things that we've done over time and been rewarded about. Talked a little bit about food. This is just a representation of food that we'll offer in our stores. Again, it's about 1,000 square foot kitchen, made to order food, full bakery, making product on site as opposed to kind of a freezer to shelf offering. But so good offering from that perspective. And I won't dive too deep into a lot of this stuff, but obviously the fuel business is a very well regulated business. We install double-walled USTs underground to make sure that we don't have any leakage. We do have interstitial monitoring on those, so if there is leakage, we know about it very, very rapidly and can handle emergencies as they happen, although that's a very rare occurrence. Landscaping, it sounds like we'll talk a little bit more about landscaping and how we make sure that we're fitting into the community from how we build this site. And then safety is of utmost importance to us. And I think you see a building that's got a lot of windows, and that's intentional for a number of reasons. One is it allows a lot of light in, and that's nice for the interior of the business. But it also allows associates inside to understand what's going on outside. And any police officer or fire person who drives through the lot can actually then also see inside and understand what's going on. And what you see is what you get from a glazing perspective. You're not going to see it all covered with beer signs and cigarette signs. And so we keep those very clean. We operate very, very clean facilities and maintain them at a very, very high level. So I'm essentially here to, answer questions more than anything else from an operational perspective, and happy to turn it over to Jamie, who actually has a lot of technical knowledge.
Sure. So we already touched on the location, just put up another aerial to kind of show an overview, where the site will be, what the surrounding area looks like. Obviously everyone's familiar with Holland Card. So here we, took into account the comments on the wall, just kind of put together an exhibit of what we basically highlighting the ordinance language, acknowledging the need for a continuous footing, block or, poured and stamped option. So we're not, don't have any issue with that. To put this forth to, like I said, acknowledge that, we comply with that item. Just to touch on overview, we'd extend the sidewalk along Card up to our property line. I believe it would connect to an existing one, so there wouldn't be a gap there with that. And then, as already touched on, contemplating some future cross-access with development to the west when that occurs, and then to the north, when that occurs as well. A little, zoomed in close view. We already kind of touched on, what's going to be the operations here. Southern canopy is your kind of typical passenger vehicle. Northern one, larger vehicles, that, which I guess I'll touch on another slide here in a moment. But in general, you can kind of tell here, the pumps are angled. The site is designed with the intention to have people enter on Hall, exit to Card, kind of try to direct people on understanding they may choose to come out onto Hall, but based on time of day, that probably wouldn't be the preferred movement, and take advantage of the signal at Card Road. I guess a brief note on the last slide, Card Road was expanded to have a second right turn lane to help kind of move traffic through there by Macomb County last year, I believe. So this is just kind of discuss some of the concerns earlier, illustrate that there is a decent amount of space to get around vehicles if queuing may be occurring, just to help illustrate, kind of our thought and reasoning for where, cross-access is. Part of the reason we don't initially want to align it with the front of the store is to avoid, additional vehicle traffic in an area where there is, more vehicles from pump, or front of store, or pedestrians that might, park at the pump and walk to the store. So that was part of our reasoning to place it where we place it. Just to clarify the northern canopy, and there's some comments on that. So, this does offer gas or diesel, that could be up to a semi, but really, think landscaping truck and trailer could benefit from the extra height or maneuvering area, delivery trucks. It is one user per lane with the opportunity to fuel from either side. So that's the intent here with the dispenser configuration, is to get people, the option to go from either side.
Yeah, the two center lanes would have the ability to fuel from either side. So you'll have a master on one side and an ancillary pump on the other side. So trucks that have two sides to fill. So that's just how that operates. It just makes it much more rapid for them to fill their vehicles.
Landscaping, we acknowledge and, would correct the legend on the stone. All the callouts in the plan, the intent is to have the stone no less than 3 inches diameter. As already kind of commented on, there's a pretty large distant green space currently, anticipating future development. So instead of moving the wall down by our use, we pushed it up to the north side along the boundary, so that a future user would also be able to use that screening wall. Otherwise, landscaping as noted throughout the property and around the perimeter. So I know there's some discussion on building access. So front of the building is zero curb, bollard protected, so free movement there. I guess this is a typical Maverick design, just so you can kind of see what we're going for here. providing some dimension, showing that we, have the ADA path requirement met here, just so you can understand where we're coming from with our bollard placement. And then, just some quick overview of our floor plan and elevations in these next few slides. You can see, bathrooms, retail area, kitchens, and some photos you saw earlier. We'll just kind of scroll through these so you can understand, we already saw some actual photos, but these are the elevations presented as part of the submittal. And just a rendering to go with the flat elevation. Kind of touched on canopy already. And then the materials. With that, we want to give you an idea of what we're going for here, answer any questions you might have, and hopefully work toward some agreement and approval.
Okay. All right, commissioners, you have questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a few. Probably start with the petitioner. Just one of the first things I want to mention on that one of the last slides, you showed a typical design. It looks like there was some outside storage. I didn't see any on this drawing. Is that consistent with, are you expecting there to be outside storage or not? Because I noticed it on the one slide.
Yeah, the preference is to have some outside storage, typically, propane cage, maybe some ice boxes. So that would be their typical preference.
Okay, and just to follow up with that is, Josh, are we okay with that with the current special land use? And is that anything that needs to be added if they're going to do that?
So the outside storage, as you're aware, does also require a special land use. I guess I would defer to legal counsel if we can add that on to the special land use that we're already here to discuss, or if that should be a separate issue in the future.
It hasn't been publicized, so I think it has to be a separate issue in the future.
Okay.
So if that's something the petitioner is looking for, that would have to be an additional application or tabled for another time or something. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure when I saw that I hadn't seen it on the drawings. So, okay. Josh, a question for you on the landscape portion. If the applicant develops the north side of the site with another use, would they not have to put a buffer between that use and the north wall?
Yes, they would.
And that would be taken care of in a site plan at that time? That would be a requirement there?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. And then I guess just a question for the applicant. I had glanced through because they had highlighted this portion under our in our notes, and so I was reading through. I think it's 10.1705 talks about a wall, further a 50-foot setback, and then beyond the setback, it also says develop as green belt. So then I was going into definitions, and most of the definitions talk about 8-foot or 25-foot green belts. A lot of them talk about double rows of trees. I'm not sure that it applies here, but I guess I'm just curious, particularly with this essentially being a truck. Heavily truck-based in the back. What you typically do there, this is probably a little bit maybe more intensive from a vehicular perspective. How do you think through that? What are you thinking with landscaping in that area?
I think we're considering that the large 350-foot gap right now as far as screening or buffer to the residential. We would work with any future development to the north on or consider their use as well as far as if that buffer would need to increase further between our two uses.
Do you have an anticipation of what the use or the owner's representative of what that use might be in the future? Do you have something that you typically pair up?
No, I do not have a specific use, that is planned at this point in time, and we don't really have a typical partner that we do like a QSR or something like that is somebody that we have partnered with on a regular basis. It would be obviously probably retail in nature. I mean, you might look at a restaurant, those kinds of uses, gas or coffee, that type of use.
And obviously, it's a broad question. I understand we get a broad answer, but do you have some understanding of how long it would take you to develop? Is this something you're expecting that to happen quickly? Is it a long-term thing?
It would be something that we would take on quickly once we build the site or once we get that process rolling. Yeah, we would do it as quickly. A lot of it's market based. I mean, it depends a lot on what how much other property there is and the desires and demand for space along that corridor.
It could take time, but your desire would be to develop it.
Our desire would be to develop it quickly. Yes.
Okay. with regards to the traffic flow, I've been on this commission for a while. I've seen comments from our gentlemen in the engineering department. I tend to be pretty trusting in their read on if something is safe or not. Although I will say before, I usually try deliberately to read through the plans before I read anybody's comments on it, so that I'm not colored by that. And I know that I highlighted that area as well, particularly when it appeared that there were semis coming in, or potentially semis coming in off Hall Road. That buffering space between that first drive lane, the drive lane in the front, it feels very tight to me. So can you speak, you kind of mentioned that you were concerned about the pedestrian, if I understood your description, the pedestrian traffic between the pumps and between the front drive. Can you speak to maybe more of how you see the congestion going in there? You showed a 3-car stacking, but you've got semis. Like, can you delve a little bit into that? Because I default to what I see, and then it's solidified by what I'm hearing. So,
Yeah, so, semis would be entering on Hall Road, that's correct, and then exiting to Card. So, there's no semi movements out to Hall Road anticipated or planned. I guess to go back to my comment, there's more moving around in between the canopy and building, which is why we didn't, initially align that cross-access with that area. But then we also do have ample room, kind of what the intent here is, for people to maneuver around, in those kind of peak conditions is the intent.
One of the one of the challenges that can happen when you align drive aisles like that is it can create an opportunity for pass-through traffic, which can come through at a speed, bypassing, coming through our site to get over to Hall Road to Hall Road from Card, or to get through to the next door neighbor through the site. And encouraging that from a speed perspective can just create congestion in an area that's already congested with obviously parking spaces as well as pumps. And so we'll try to not align those to create a more safe situation. However, it's not the only consideration. Obviously, from a safety perspective, we have to consider all things.
So you're talking about the driving from the northerly future site to the westerly site, or from Card to Hall Road? Or?
Well, when you align those drive aisles like that with cross-access, you encourage people going back and forth, which is somewhat intentional to take traffic off of the road. I fully understand the movement between the sites and trying to do that. But when you align them, it can create a scenario where it makes it very easy for people to cut through more rapidly, who aren't actually coming to the site to use the site. So that would be a consideration of why we would have chosen to move it to where it is as opposed to aligning it from a safety perspective.
I know Josh touched on the front drive aisle. I'm not sure that you mentioned that. Maybe I missed it. I was thinking about all this stuff. Did you commented on that front drive aisle?
I guess I would say it'd be related, that there's, good room to make that movement for people to either go straight if they're going to the store, if they're going to the dispensers, to, turn into that front aisle and not be delayed. And then with the intent of the traffic circulation to come on to, the site via via Hall and exit to Card, the movement from those dispensers to Hall, is not the primary movement that we're anticipating with the site layout.
The intent would be to move it from southwest to northeast, that traffic onto the site and off. Obviously, that doesn't always happen.
Entering through Hall, exiting through Card.
Yeah.
Correct.
That actually brings me to one of my other questions. So your primary exit point is Card, and yet on the drive you show half of it reserved for inbound and half going left, and then a quarter going left and a quarter going right on outbound. So I was just curious. I actually have not looked at this often before, but I'm curious regarding that, considering the main amount of traffic you're expecting that to be going out, and yet you've got that divided more down. Can you speak to that at all?
I would say you're talking about the pavement markings to Card
Yes.
Road. I would say those are just, typical, splits for lanes and vehicle widths. There weren't any special adjustments to the pavement markings there. Will most people turn right? Likely, depending on time of day, the at-home movement will be more left-bound. And I think we have some data in the traffic study that would be part of our permit that would, illustrate that.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. The only, I guess, final comment that I would have, I try to think about site plans that I've been part of that I regret. It's a good practice for me. I can point out a few across our township, and most of them have to do with site circulation. Sometimes it's something that I knew at the time and was not careful enough. Sometimes it was things that I didn't recognize that in some cases we were warned, or some cases we missed it altogether. So from what I see about the site plan, I think it's obvious you guys are putting a lot of care into it. I can tell it. Your presentation was appreciated. I'm concerned about it myself. It feels like it's not where I am comfortable with it from I'd say a health and safety standard. I'm not sure exactly how we fit that into how the ordinance says. I'm just giving my feedback as to what I see, and letting you know that's where I currently sit with it. But I appreciate all of your comments and your openness on your thought process and rationale. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone else?
Question to the petitioner. Just to follow up on what Mr. Tuckfield was talking about. So if I have a semi, typically 53-foot trailer, and I'm going to enter in, then I'm going to get my fuel, and then I need to get back on Hall Road. Are you leaving enough radius to pull that out without swinging into the north and southbound lanes? Because I just don't see it here.
Yeah, we have done, several truck turns through that area. There is a taper added for the exit movement, and there are now 2, southbound lanes. But even then, our intent is not to swing into the other lane. We can make that turn, and then the rear wheels will kind of track along that taper on the southbound area of that drive.
Which is a rollover, correct?
Yeah, if needed, but it can make that move without.
So on your engineering map there, where it says stop to go south and stop to go west, roughly how much width do you got there?
12 would be the kind of standard lane width.
12 feet.
Yep. If you're talking the striping to exit the site.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're saying a semi, a 53 foot, if the guy's axles are back all the way, is gonna make that without getting into the next lane?
Yes. Yeah. We are adding a left turn lane and a bypass here, based on our initial discussions with Macomb County.
Okay. Then the other question is, what is to stop someone coming in? Again, I'm mainly concerned with the semi-traffic. Not that I have any objections to this, like, we probably need a fuel station for trucks over there. But, again, following up on what Mr. Tuckfield said, sometimes this all looks great until it's built, and then it's too late. So we want to make sure we get it right out of the gates. So what's going to stop a truck from entering on the northbound Card Road entrance and then trying to swing into this? Is he going to have enough room, or is that going to make congestion? Do you follow me?
Yeah. So all the signage on both the canopy and for the site, the truck movement would be Hall Road. The canopy, the entry sign would be on the west. Exit would be to the east. Everything from the signage we can do would be to prevent that movement.
Okay.
That is not, the preferred movement for trucks, and not the intent here for any of our site design or signage.
Okay.
I'll jump in as well. I mean, I think we operate a lot of truck stops. I don't want to say truck stops, wrong word, but a lot of sites that handle a lot of diesel vehicles. And what you're talking about is one of the most important things to us as well in relationship to circulation on property, because and if you have a truck, that you're going to go somewhere that you know how you can get on and get off
Sure.
easily.
I don't mean to interrupt. You just need to talk.
Yeah, sorry. You know well enough that the best places to go are the places you can get easily in and out of and navigate that site. without challenge. And so we try to take that into account as we lay it out as well. So it's very important to us.
One more question, two actually. One, will there be any consideration for overnight trucking, overnight stay, parking?
None whatsoever.
Zero.
No, zero.
Okay. So that'll be
no,
a
no desire for it.
that'll be something that's posted?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question, I'm kind of got concerns again on Hall Road with a semi pulling in. Kind of the same thing here. You know, let's say two trucks pull in at the same time. All right, and then people are trying to get out. I'm just a little, I got some concerns about that. The gas station, again, people need convenience stores. I like the food idea. You know, in and out for cars is great. But when it comes to trucks, you know, a car's 18 foot long, 20. A truck and a trailer is 70. So that's what I worry about more than anything, is maneuvering them trucks with people and cars.
Understand.
The other thing I'm a little concerned about, and Josh, you might even, could you go back to the comments?
On which, on our slides?
Yeah, on your end, I am concerned, gentlemen, with all the comments. Generally, we don't get that many. Okay, I just want to make sure everything has been done through planning, so they could bring something to us that don't have quite as many comments. Because me personally, when I look at project, I don't like fixing much here. I want to have it all fixed in planning. So when it comes to us, you know, we got minor things to do, but there's a few major things up there that, you know, that I got just concerns on. And I'm sure they're going to get addressed tonight, so then I could make a decision on how this, for me. And that's about it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Who else? Mr. Bentley?
Along the same lines, traffic, and I don't believe either Mr. Oliver or Mr. Tuckfield touched on it. Maybe they did, and I didn't hear it. But in addition to those comments, what do you see as being the remedy for trucks coming down Card Road and entering on Card Road or off of Card Road with a truck? Where does he go? How does he turn around to get access to the pumps?
Well, they should be able to navigate that site relatively easily from a drive aisle perspective all the way around it. So they should, if they come in, they should be able to navigate all the way around and go back out.
And there's no restriction and no signage indicated, although you indicate you'll have signage. But there's nothing indicated that they would be restricted and wouldn't allow them to come through. So they would be actually coming in and going through the parking lot then, and then coming clear around and accessing, is that correct? Or accessing the pumps to get to the pumps?
I would agree they're able to make that movement, but I would have to see the sign plan yet, but I know other sites have been signed to be not a truck entry. You know, that the intent is not for them to enter via there, it's enter via Hall, but site is designed to be able to accommodate that movement. You know, for other sites, we might have fuel tanks around the canopy, so we need the space we have. So yes, they could make the movement, but signage will not be suggestive of that and may even just explicitly state not a truck entrance.
Okay.
I would say also, while the opportunity to fuel diesel here exists, we don't have an expectation that we're going to have more than a 6, 8, 10 trucks an hour coming through here. So it's from a full, like a full truck, like a semi situation. There's not, I mean, there's truck traffic on Hall Road, But we don't have an expectation that this is going to be a center. No one is, this is not going to be a destination. This is going to be a pass-by opportunity for somebody to fill. They're not going to come from the interstate or come from somewhere else to actually seek this site out to fill here. So it wouldn't be a significant amount of that type of traffic. Most often in these scenarios, in situations like this, it would serve box trucks, it would serve delivery trucks, it would serve landscaping companies, it would serve pickups with trailers, it would serve pickups with boats, or those kinds of vehicles who would like that extra space to be able to fill. Certainly you will get some semis that come through here, but it's not going to be a constant stream of semis. The traffic level just doesn't exist on Hall Road to generate that.
Yeah, I understand it's not going to be a truck stop
Yeah,
per
no,
se.
in no way, yeah.
But there are a lot of trucks in this area, and they need to travel freely, or they'll stop up circulation for regular cars, and I'm thinking that's going to be a bottleneck. I also disagree, I guess, with your the location of the cross drive on the southwest. It does preclude or help preclude when somebody's going east and coming to that, yeah, they can't continue and drive into a pump. But it forces them, they can't do anything else. And I think further to the north gives them flexibility to maybe not drive through your parking lot, but at least gives them some place to go when they've got, if this is a residential area next to it or a business next to it in the future, there's going to be a lot of traffic as well, in and out of this location as well as there. And I think that is, that's going to create a congested area, especially if you've got trucks coming in, cars coming in, on your turning radiuses that you show for your trucks, for both truck access points. I mean, you're over the line on some of your studies. You're over the center line with your trucks coming onto Card Road. And that doesn't bode well with what you said, that, you know, it shouldn't do that. I mean, normally when they lay that out, and I've gone through a lot of that, they'll lay out the best scenario, and they'll make sure that that's not going to happen. It doesn't have to happen, but I can see even from your graphics that it will. Even off of Hall Road, the truck, to make that turn, has to go into the second lane, so he's not able to stay into that far right lane. So I think although you're building everywhere, you've got a lot of history. I think you said 100 years of history. Every site is not the same. They're not cookie cutters. The building might be, and I think you have to really design this for this particular situation, for Michigan area that has a lot of trucks, and also my concern too is, you said in your you didn't dwell on it, but in your presentation you have outdoor seating. Seating. Where is that seating?
It's on the
East side.
east side, yeah.
It's on the east side of the building.
I think they show it on
You
the
can
same.
Where the
I see
picnic
this.
tables
Oh,
are.
I see.
See, yeah,
Okay.
see the tables right there.
All right. And there is no curb on any of this perimeter parking then? It's all zero curb?
Correct. Bollard protected, zero curb.
And I guess I have to ask Mr. Tiflin and Mr. Bond, do we accept zero curb on, in this kind of situation?
With the bollards in place, that provides the safety that we're looking for with the curb. So either way is fine.
And then the comment regarding the bollard having to be removed to create the 5-foot minimum clearance. Is that being met here, or where specifically were those restrictions?
Yeah, where the ADA parking spaces are on the south side of the building, there's that hatched out area, that's the accessible route into the building.
Yes?
There's a bollard right in the middle of that hatched out area.
Okay,
Our thought was, instead of being one that's dead center in the middle, have maybe two on either side, so it creates that 5-foot walkway that somebody would be looking for.
I understand, okay.
I understand they want to protect the building in case somebody decides they want to park there and they're not supposed to, but I think there are other ways that they can handle it that would accomplish the same thing.
Right, okay. That answers some of my concerns anyway with
Anyone else?
traffic.
Just batted for.
Yes, thank you for your presentation, gentlemen. It was good. I do had some follow-up. I concur with most of what my colleagues here on the Planning Commission were stating, but can you touch on briefly, like, the thought process, the feasibility, why this particular site? Is it consistent with what Maverick looks for when they're looking to acquire property, either individually or through your representatives or agents, as far as
Sure.
like off of a main thoroughfare highway, or?
Yeah, you bet. And that's what I do every day. So, so it certainly fits in. I mean, the idea that the Maverick follows, and it varies by market depending upon how long they've been in the market and kind of the types of sites that they're looking at initially. I mean, typically you're looking at an interstate exit situation, or you're looking at high traffic corners. You want a lighted intersection almost always. This is a unique one because it's a Michigan left. It's lit, but it's not really a through lit intersection, so it does have the ability to slow down that traffic. But yeah, we look for main and main type corners, and this would fit right into that particular criteria.
Clarify, maybe I missed this in the materials or in part of your presentation, but does Maverick own any of the other adjacent parcels other than we're in the corner?
No,
Just
no,
that
yeah,
one.
and this is actually one large parcel now that we're splitting out into 5 acres. And we would own just that 5 acres. So the parcel that we're developing, plus obviously the parcel behind it, it would be part of this as well.
Okay, so that's owned by Maverick as well, too, the
Well,
parcel behind
currently
it?
it is not. It is, we control it, but we don't
You're
own
under
it.
contract
Yeah,
with it
exactly.
then? Okay, what
Exactly.
about the parcels to the west? Are they under contract, or
Those are owned by,
someone else?
yeah, someone else. Yeah.
Okay. Usually, gentlemen, and this kind of follows up with what Mr. Oliver, my colleague on the far end of the table, was saying, we don't have a lot of concerns or comments ahead of time when it comes before the Planning Commission. Usually with the applicant, will get department reviews back, I would think, at a sufficient enough time prior to the Planning Commission meeting where they would see the concerns. Do you know approximately when you received these comments back previously, before coming to the table tonight?
I mean, this particular set of comments, I believe, is from May 9th. I think it's because there's some comments we wanted feedback on, approaching different deadlines, need that feedback. And that's why we requested to appear at this meeting, to get that feedback, to understand, on some of these items that were up for debate, the position on them, and present our case.
So you were looking from Planning Commission input, maybe to clarify it further?
Yeah, on a few of the
perhaps
items.
going back with and working these out maybe with the planning department?
Yeah.
Or, and our other departments that our engineering department and planning department that express some concerns?
Yeah, I mean, some of the items like the wall, we basically agree to.
Is
It's just,
Are there any comments right now, and in light of what was said tonight, that pose a problem with Maverick that you think we need to discuss further?
Well, so I'll wait. I think trying to have a better understanding of the comment that was that it's too close to the right of way and understand the intent of that. You know, is it an ask for a shift or a change? You know, the cross access is a relatively straightforward request. I think that's pretty black and white, and that's understandable completely. But that would be one that we would try to get a better understanding of what the intent was of that comment.
Okay.
I generally understand it, but we would like to get some idea of what the expectation would be, so.
Okay. You also alluded, I think, to a traffic study, and this either directly or indirectly ties in with regular vehicular traffic, truck traffic. I think the traffic study, you did obtain a private traffic study, or you did your own, and I don't know, was it vetted with the Macomb County Department of Roads or the state of Michigan, since M59 is a state highway? Can you go in a little bit about that?
So, yeah, that's prepared in anticipation of those permit submittals, which, would typically follow this site plan approval. So, we understand, their jurisdiction and that they might additionally have some further adjustments or not. And so we understand that, approvals can often be conditioned on that permit approval as well. They might be willing to do more or less than, what may be permitted by a municipality. But as far as scope, scope would follow or does follow state and county requirements so that it can be tied to that permit submittal and approval.
All right, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, anyone else?
Just a couple.
Sure.
Your operation is 24 hours?
It is 24/7.
Okay, and I want to ask about the bollards. I mean, most gas stations I go into, you got the raised curb, and I see you do a bollards. Is that what's the thought process for Maverick on that?
Curbs gather things. Curbs get dirty. Curbs create facilities challenges. Curbs get broken. The zero curb with the bollard for us has been something that's much easier to maintain, that's much safer, that creates much less trip hazards, and is pretty consistent throughout our footprint. Obviously, we have sites that have curbs as well, so it's not something that we haven't done, but that's why we pursue that, is that it creates less hazards. Curbs will collect material, stuff, dust, sand, dirt, all sorts of things that just becomes challenging to keep clean on a regular basis. And the bollards create a much safer situation, I think, from our perspective for cars driving through windows, which happens regularly. So,
Okay, is this your first Metro Detroit area that you're proposing here?
we have other sites in the Metro Detroit area that we are pursuing currently, but this would be one of those sites. Yes.
Nothing built?
Nothing is built. No. Yeah, we would have. We have 5 in the Grand Rapids market, and 1 will open here in a couple of weeks, which were done under under Come and Go at that time, and then we'll transition to Maverick.
Okay, and I just want to touch on something, Mr. Spataforce, that your property line that you have apparently maybe under contract is you're up to the west, right? You don't own the property west of that or have that under contract?
No. We have 5 acres under contract with the owner, of which all has been depicted here. The vacant property behind the gas station site plan.
To the north?
To the north. Sorry, to the north. Yeah. We're looking at just that property. Yeah, we don't have any sort of interest in or contract on or have any discussions whatsoever with anything to the west.
Okay.
It sounds like you're here for input more than approval.
I mean, if we got to a point where the input and we can agree on approval, that'd be ideal in our eyes, but we would take input as well and make adjustments as needed to get that approval.
Mr. Box, are you comfortable with us passing or approving this site plan? And can we approve the site plan and not approve a special land use or vice versa? They have to go hand in hand, correct?
They would be separate motions. You could approve one and not approve the other, or approve both or not approve both. I would say our staff position, it appears that they're willing to update the wall with a continuous footing, as well as adjust the landscape count for the rock or stone size. I think staff still has concerns with the access. If I could, if you could look at the screen behind you. I could back up for a minute. I know there's been a lot of talk about semi-truck kind of circulation. Keep in mind that this is a T intersection. Card Road does not go through. It does not go into Clinton Township. So a semi-truck going northbound on Card trying to make that left, I don't see that happening. It'd be extremely rare, because the only way it's going northbound on Card is that it's already on Hall Road first. So why wouldn't it enter the gas station if that's where it was going? I think the majority of the trucks will follow the circulation and end up on Card Road. That being said, yes, there, as Mr. Oliver pointed out, is there some turning radius questions here, potentially? But I think the bigger questions for us have to do with both the cross access. Again, I think we've made our position that we would prefer that to be in line with this drive aisle. I think Mr. Lemons touched on it, that that is the intent. So vehicles that maybe in whatever this is developed to the west in the future want to go to Card Road, they don't need to get back out on Hall Road. They can go through this site. That's why we provide cross access. Additionally, so the example that I can use with regards to why we think this drive aisle is a little too close to Hall Road, if you look at the cars stacking up here, and you look at my cursor here, so you have several cars stacked up in this image. Let's say there's a vehicle getting fuel at this pump, and now he decides to go out to Hall Road, and they come in this direction. Well, they can't get in line, so they're going to sit right here until they can get in line. Well, now that's going to back up traffic trying to come in from Hall Road. A lot of sites on Hall Road would have this curb continued further up into the site, and I think I'll defer to Jim, but I think that's what he's getting at with that comment. So I guess to answer your question, kind of long-winded answer here, but I would say no. I don't think our opinions have changed on that. To their point, these are not things that violate the ordinance. This is in your purview to make a decision as you see fit. But these are health and safety concerns that we would have.
Okay. All right. At this time, before we do anything further, we need to open it to the public. So I need a motion to open this.
So
Motion by Mr. Meyerly, seconded by Mr. Oliver. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the site plan or special land use for Maverick, the gas station, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 4 minutes.
Sure. Michael Awada, 15250, 21 Mile Road, Macomb, Michigan. First off, I want to applaud all of you for your, it sounds like a thorough review of what's being proposed today by the petitioner. As I mentioned, I am from Michigan. I am from Macomb County. We've owned the business for over 20 years, and I'll keep this brief. I know the comments here are specific to the site plan and the ordinance, but I, along with my colleagues here, over 20 years of business history in Macomb. An additional gas station, I know Josh, in your opening remarks, you mentioned there are several gas stations all along Hall Road. An additional gas station would do nothing more than take away business from existing sites. That's the first part of my comment. The more prudent and important is the health and safety aspect to all of this. While I respect the signage that they're proposing, there's something called reality. And as an owner, as a gas station owner, several gas stations here in Southeast Michigan, I can tell you not everybody complies. I would say the greater majority do not comply with any signage for the most part when entering, specifically on a thoroughfare like M59 when you're going 55 miles through a green light. I can only imagine what would happen when a gas trailer is backed up trying to pull in to deliver fuel, and there's a opposing truck that's coming out there, as you mentioned, nearly 70 feet, plus the additional gas traffic that you would get. The other thing that I would ask the petitioner, and perhaps you should understand this, is what's their average customer count at some of their locations? You'll find that it's about 1,100 customers per day. 1,100 customers per day. Could you imagine how that traffic would react when you have several other, maybe he was saying 6 or 8 per hour? I mean, it only takes 10 minutes or 5 minutes or even a minute to create a huge backup, which then also spills onto Hall Road, creating a greater safety concern. These are things I would like to mention. The more important part here is M59 has been now recognized by the federal government as a thoroughfare in which they'd like to continue the adoption of EVs. Well, that's the reality. You know, when you see these larger companies investing billions in EV plants, it's not because there's going to continue to be a need for gas-powered cars. It's going to end up coming to an end. And more importantly, that doesn't seem to be the highest and best use of a 14-acre parcel on Hall Road. While I respect they are trying to lock up the adjacent property to them and perhaps put a QSR or whatever, what if a developer wants to come in, just as they did in the neighboring property, and put more residential units there? How would that happen? How would that actually affect that developer's decision in doing it? Because I can't tell you, we have circumstances where when we are delivering fuel, and again, I respect the environmental, the Veeder-Root and the technology.
1 minute.
But it is important to recognize that things do happen when you're delivering fuel. Spills occur, things like that, which again causing an environmental concern. I guess in closing, what I will say is, you know, this does nothing to the community. I mean, you're going to add 15, maybe 15 jobs of low-skilled, lower income jobs, I should say. Maybe the manager may be making higher middle income money, but in reality, there's no real benefit to the community here, and that's something I would like Planning Commission to consider, along with the biggest issue is the safety concern. So thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come on in, ma'am.
I'd like to add to the...
Name and address
Oh,
for the
I'm
record,
sorry.
please. That's okay.
Sharon Lawback. I'm at 21774 Magnolia Court, which is the subdivision that butts right up to that. So my backyard is literally the green space area. I did want to commend this gentleman. You guys, this is my first meeting here at this township. I'm newer to your community, and you have asked all the questions that I would like to have asked. So I want to thank you for at least being open and respectful. Living in this area, which I have for the past 5 years, I am concerned as a resident in the area and a person that comes and goes quite often due to life circumstances up and down Card Road. That's site circulation. I don't see it working at all. I agree the trucks coming out onto Card Road are going to swing into that other lane. If you drove that route every day and traveled south on Card and waited in line certain parts of the day for those 2 lanes to shake loose when that light goes, you will see there is no room for a truck to come out of that. I also have concern as to your labeling of the exits, showing that this is only an exit here and this is only an entrance. That's not going to work. People don't read, they don't care. People from my neighborhood are going to come in the side on Card Road whether you have a sign there or not. They just are. My other concern was the development of this possible green space or other space that you're looking at, as to what you would even consider turning that into. You mentioned, I think, little shops or coffee type things. The same issue is going to happen there with the exit on Card Road being so close to the light there on Hall Road. So as much as my husband is not happy with me being here tonight because he's looking forward to a gas station being on the corner, I have a different point of view. I am not having an issue with it being there. I don't like it, but I don't like the traffic flow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Eddie Jawad, 19040 24 Mile Road. Wow. It's not just a gas station, it's a truck stop on Card Road. Never in my wild imagination thought this would happen in this township. You guys are going all out. There's a gas station every corner. You got one going in 21 Mile Card Road, one going 20 Mile Card Road. You got one on every side of this. You know, Heinrich, you got a gas station. North Avenue, you got a gas station. What are you guys trying to do to this township? Really, what are you trying to do to this township? I mean, when I built my station 25 years ago, the nearest gas station was 10 miles away. 10 miles away. Is this the best you can do? And then semi-trucks driving on Card Road. Whoa, I have over 20 gas stations. I will never put a truck stop in an area like this. Never. I have truck stops. They're in major roads, not on Card Road. Then the developers from out of state. What is the benefit to us, to our community, to our school, to our children, to everything? What is the benefit? He's going to hire 15 employees. I will hire 20, put them in my station rather than have him do that. If this is what you're looking at, really. You guys got to look at that master plan. You got to look at the master plan of the township. You can't just be throwing gas station every corner. This is what you're doing. And people coming out of state. You can't do that. This has got to stop. And anyway, it has to be stopped. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I am Merlene Thompson at 21133 25 Mile Road. I just came to this meeting tonight just for general listening, but being born and raised in this area, and I'm 75 years old, I have, for example, there is a gas station on 24 on Romeo Plank and Hall Road, and during the day, at times when traffic is backed up to 21 Mile Road, going to Hall Road, people decide they get impatient and decide, oh gosh, there's this gas station there, and I can just drive right through and fly around and fly out onto Hall Road. I have witnessed people almost getting hit coming out of the gas station store. I have seen cars almost getting hit, pulling out of their spot from getting gas. And you know what? The Card Road is the same way. It gets backed up a mile, sometimes a day. People get impatient, even though they get closer to the light. They're going to see that, oh, yeah, there's that driveway that I can go around and go flying around. All that I see, it's basically is like, you know, in my opinion, it's like a racetrack around the area to get out onto Hall Road. And I just fear for the danger of the safety. I just fear for the safety of the people, you know, coming in out of the, like you said, the stores that might be there and, you know, them getting gas. Okay, so that's just my opinion, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone? No? Bunch of gentlemen back there. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? No? Okay. All right. I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Spatafor, seconded by Mr. Meyerly. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Box, would you like to address some of the comments?
I don't know that there were necessarily any questions asked, but what I would say is this site is zoned C3. With a special land use, a gas station is allowed. I certainly understand and appreciate their passion. They are local folks who got up and spoke, but I don't think that that's necessarily in the purview of of the Planning Commission to consider those things. A gas station with a special land use would be allowed in this location, and it does in fact match the master plan.
Okay, all right. Let's bring it back to the commissioners. Anything?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some comments briefly. I've lived in this community my whole life. And I care about being in this community. I care about being in the United States. And I listen to a lot of these discussions, and I hear a lot of people say, don't build this here. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate the tear up. I can appreciate traffic concerns. Those are all things that we're here to address. We have a zoning ordinance. We should hold people to it. We have safety regulations. We should hold people to it. And what you guys heard tonight was us making a very hard, good faith effort to talk to these gentlemen about making sure that we held them to a safety standard. There was disagreement, respectful disagreement. There was communication, and that was what we tried to do. But I want to know how many of the people who don't want this built would be happy if we told them that they could not develop a business on a property that they owned when that business was in the ordinance. It goes against who we are. When the rule says that someone can build something there, when it matches that rule, we owe it to that person to do that unless there is some compelling safety reason otherwise, which we are trying to address. I know you gentlemen. I've been in most of your establishments. I appreciate your establishments. They're good gas stations. But recognize that what we're here to do is to be fair and balanced to all the people who come in front of us. And this is a matter of liberty. You cannot just tell people, we don't want this to be built there. Not without a better reason than that. So I feel passionate about this. You can hear it in my voice. It is important to who we are. It is important to you, gentlemen. If anybody told you when you went to build your establishments, we don't want it there, we hear that at the Planning Commission, and we get to sit here and we have the uncomfortable job of looking at people and say, we know you don't like this, but this goes with the rules, and it is our job to prove that. We've done it for a number of you here. A number of you have had things that people didn't like, and we voted on it. We did our job because we owed it to the rules of the township. And I'm not going to sit here and not do that again if it matches up with the rules and regulations. I owe it to the people of the township. I owe it to the board. I owe it to the oath I swore, appointed though I may be, when I took this position. So I feel passionate about it. I hope you can understand that. We do our best job to make sure that the developments are safe. But at the bottom line, it is a question of freedom. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tuckfield. Anyone else?
I got a question for Mr. Bach. It's kind of clear there's, they weren't maybe interested in a straight answer, yes or no tonight, okay? They actually said that. I'm sure they'd want a yes. But could they ask for a tabling on this and then maybe meet back with you on some of this stuff that we've discussed?
Absolutely.
That would be up to them, though.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Or we just vote on it the way this board feels what was presented to us tonight.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Spatafora. I think Mr. Oliver asked like half of my thought process in his question. Procedurally, if this commission decided to take the question tonight under consideration and were to deny it, or yes, the site plan of special land use, but if the applicant were to come back and refile, would that necessitate, additional fees with the applicant? As opposed, if we wanted maybe more concern and, deliberation perhaps, and ferret out the safety issues that have been discussed tonight, if they were to table it to a later date, would there be an additional charge there, or the existing filing fees would be in place?
So the application process, they have applied for a site plan and a special land use. Whether you vote yes or no, that's the culmination of that process. So if you were to deny they would have to come back and reapply. So yes, new fees would be required. If you were to table, if they were to request a tabling, then yes, they're still in the existing application that's already open.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Go ahead, Mr. Bentley.
The next question I have is, due to the amount of issues that need to be clarified on the plans, details of which a couple of them you've agreed to do, can we, as a commission, table it until those things are addressed on the drawings, in the documents, and then once that is completed, then we could complete the rest of the review?
I guess I would say typically, when an item is tabled, it's at the behest of a request from the applicant, but I guess I can defer to legal counsel if the board, or the planning commission, excuse me, would have the power to table without such a request.
I believe it has to come from the applicant.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we make the motion to table after the applicant,
If they were to request
they
it.
were to request
That's correct.
postponement or table it. Well, gentlemen,
I would say if we're not at a position to approve with conditions, tabling would be my preference, to clarify some of the items. I think we're generally on the same page here on a number of them. I would like some additional clarification on distance still, as far as curbing, striping, movement, for that inbound movement on Hall. But I think we have a clear direction on the other comments.
and if you, since you decided to table it, you can work all of that out with the planning department, you know? Okay, all right. Anyone else?
Or to follow up at least what the planning department is looking for under our current, ordinances, policies, procedure, and perhaps a little bit more discussion as that relates to health, safety, and welfare as well, too. And I would agree, I think, in that instance, I think I agree with your decision if you're so inclined to table it at this time, request a tabling, to, work that out more carefully. Sure.
Okay, just for clarification, Mr. Box, can we have to table these two things separately, right?
I think they would require two motions if you were going to approve or deny. But because it's one agenda item, I think you can table that agenda item with one motion and one vote.
That's what I wanted to know.
Mr.
Mrs.
Chair,
Smith.
I have one question for Mr. Bach. I believe they said they got your concerns back in May, correct? And at that point, when they received your concerns, they could go to you and talk to you regarding the concerns that the township had. And at that point, if they weren't satisfied with that, they could ask you at that point to move this date, correct?
That's correct, and I think he indicated they requested this date. They requested to be on this agenda.
Okay, even after they got the concerns from the township?
That's
All right,
correct.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask if we should be postponing, which I believe would be technically what we'd be doing, because tabling it would be in meeting, postponing to a specific date to Josh or to the petitioner or until,
We don't know what they want to do yet.
typically,
Yeah.
we should do it to a date, though.
If we're postponing.
Yeah.
But if we're tabling, we don't have to.
Well, technically tabling can only be done in a meeting. Tabling is to a later point of the agenda. If it's another meeting, it has to be postponed.
And through the chair, typically, gentlemen, our planning commission meetings are the first and third Tuesdays of each month. So I think, to ferret some of these other issues out, gauge yourself when you think you'd be looking to come back.
I think in general, we want to come back as soon as we can. I guess my question, which Josh might be able to answer, is a notice required again?
So,
And how does that play in the timing?
so a notice, if they postpone this to a specific meeting, a notice is not required again. However, I will say, it sounds like you want to do outdoor storage, which would require a separate notice anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't have the dates in front of me, but whatever the first meeting in July is, I think that would give us enough time to get that into the newspaper for that item as well. And then we could tackle all three of them at the same time.
Which would be Tuesday, July 2nd.
Second, yep.
I mean, that's partially up to you. As far as site plan, if we're willing to come back for outdoor storage, if we'd rather just have it all together.
Yeah,
'Cause I think we can turn around.
I think it makes logical sense from
Okay.
our perspective as well as yours to have it all in one situation. I mean, that.
So if that's gonna give you enough time to work with the planning department, that's great. If not, we'll move it to the 16th of July.
I'd rather be on the second is,
The second would be better.
Yes,
The work
I
is in
agree.
your hands.
yeah.
Will there be, excuse me, will there be a meeting on the 2nd? With the 3rd and the
If you
4th and?
postpone this to the second, there will be.
Huh? Yeah, okay.
Did anybody have vacation plans?
Yeah, we don't want to mess with those.
Okay,
In the week.
are we good then? Everybody's good? Yeah. All right. Then I'll make the motion to postpone the site plan and special land use for Maverick, parcel 0834400007 until July 2nd, with the understanding that you'll be working with the planning department.
Correct.
You know, from now until then. And correct all of those things that were up on there.
Support.
Okay, motion by myself, supported by Mr. Tuckfield. Mr. Bentley, call the roll.
All right. Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Tuckfield?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Marley?
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
And Mr. Spatafor?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll see you in July.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next on our list is ordinance amendment to zoning code, traditional neighborhood development, TND, the TND ordinance. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. I'm sure you all recall that this was before you very recently. So as you see on the map behind you, this is the future land use map for the township. Section 9 is all one color. And actually, we've expanded the Macomb Town Center area actually a little bit into Section 10 due to a few consent agreements. And then with the master plan, we squared it off. So what we brought before you previously, the task that you guys gave me was to, you recommended approval, but we knew there were some minor changes that needed to take place. And I was tasked to highlight those changes and sit with Supervisor Viviano and make him decide whether they were minor enough to take directly to the board or if we should bring them back before you. In that discussion at the end of last week, he was kind of on the fence about whether they were minor enough to move to the board, and the consensus was essentially that there's a planning commission meeting before the board anyways, so why not just bring it back to the planning commission? So what you had in your packet was the updated version. Anything you saw in red are things that have been removed, and anything you saw in green are things that have been added since you last saw it, which was on April 16th, I believe. So just to kind of highlight them, a number of definitions have been changed since the last time you saw them. There was some gray areas, if you will, in certain things, things like parks and open space and squares, and that had some overlap, and it was difficult to maybe determine which category did it fall in. There were some other definitions that didn't exist before that we updated or created, as well as a few where we found a few definitions that really didn't reference anything else in the ordinance, so they were removed. One of those, I think, was a stoop. We actually took, there was one reference to the stoop. We took the reference out as well as the definition. We also added some language for how to access developments from Typically, it would just say public or private right-of-ways. We added ingress and egress easements as determined by the township engineer, and we limited storage of recreational vehicles to be consistent with the standards set forth in the rest of the zoning ordinance, unless a rear alley is present. This actually came to our attention because it was a real-life situation. So in the regular township ordinance, you can not have a recreational vehicle parked in your driveway, but you are allowed to keep them in the rear of your home. However, we have a few houses in Town Center South that the rear of their home is where their driveway is. So there was a little confusion on whether or not they could actually have an RV stored there. So we did clean that up a little bit.
Okay. Comments? Questions? Anyone? Okay. At this time, we should open it to the public, but ma'am, do you have anything you'd like to share? Yes? No? Okay, no, I don't think we'll bother with the public then. Yes?
I do have a comment.
Okay. Mr. Bentley has a comment.
I had a couple comments. I've on the latter on the changes, and I talked with Mr. Box about those. Those will I'll give him some clarifications on that email wise, but there was one I didn't identify. But I think it was minor. I don't think it'll matter. But I did. You had mentioned just now, which I didn't see, is stoops were removed.
That's correct.
Stoops are in there, and a new definition is put in there for stoops.
I think that if it's in red, I think it was removed.
I believe it was in green, but.
If that's the case, then that's a clerical error, because we did remove stoop.
Okay.
On page 39, Josh.
Oh, I see it. I can go back and confirm that in my notes, but my recollection is that we ended up taking stoop out of the definitions.
That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else?
And I'll just add that the context for that was there was some confusion about the difference between a stoop and a porch, and whether if there were requirements for a porch, if you could just not have the porch and do a stoop instead, and we were trying to clean that up.
Okay. Anyone else with a comment?
Mr. Chairman, just a brief comment that I did read through it. I understand why maybe it was borderline, you weren't sure, but I appreciate you putting it in front of us. I didn't see anything that bothered me, but I appreciate the update, and looks like continually better iterations on cleaning it up and making it more friendly to be able to be used and followed. So
Thanks.
All right. Okay. Do we have a motion? I'll make the motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees the ordinance amendment to the zoning code, Traditional Neighborhood Development, TND.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion by myself, seconded by Mr. Spatafora. Mr. Bentley, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Spatafora,
Yes.
Mr. Marley,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes, Mr. Tuckfield.
yes.
All ayes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right. And again, thank you for all your hard work, Mr. Box. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, next, public comments on non-agenda items. Anybody like to come up to the podium and speak on non-agenda items? Now's the time. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Anyone?
I just have one comment.
Yes.
I kind of felt left out with the dress code today, so
Uh-huh.
my feelings aren't hurt, but you guys all look very dapper.
Oh, well, thank you
I
very
think
much.
you're dressed
Oh,
appropriately,
thank you.
black going with.
Yeah.
Okay, good, I tried.
Yeah, it matches very well, actually.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
So I put my shirt on, my wife goes, "You're the only one that's gonna wear it."
Well,
And Mr. Box, we should get a picture before we're done here.
well, let's.
Send to his wife.
I could have got one, but I got a sweatshirt and it's 89 degrees outside, so I said, nah.
Bit hot.
Yep, but you're
But you guys
perfect.
look good. You guys look good.
Okay. Any other commissioners' comments?
Sure, I'd like to do.
Okay, go on.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Charlie.
No, just mine's real brief. I was gonna make with my other comments, but, Aaron, I wanna thank you for your comment you made. That was heartfelt, and, I was thinking the same thing. And, so thank you for making that comment, because this is a free world, and if then people wanna build a gas station there, and they can meet all our ordinance, they got the right to do that, because it might be me one day wanting to build a gas station, or you, or the next person. So it's what I tell people all the time, is called freedom, and we got to respect it. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Spatafor.
I also applaud Aaron's comments as well. I mean, it was well put, well stated. I don't know if I could have been as heartfelt as him, but I can see it also what he meant, and I think a lot of us cherish that element that is not always apparent in this day and age that we live in, or at least attempts that perhaps might be trying to have it taken away from us.
Yes.
Secondly, I just wanted, again, maybe the umpteenth time to applaud our parks and recreation, our municipal parks here. Macomb Corners Park, my wife and I just love walking through there almost every night. You've got baseball games going, soccer games going, just a lively community of vibrant activity that's just so enjoyable, with amenities that are there too. It's well kept, it's clean, trails, I mean, for our community, and to see where it's come along in the last 30 years, when 30 years ago there was not a department as it is now. Maybe it was just in the fledgling founding stages of a planning committee, and then to see it grow like it has been with the wonderful leadership here, and how it's expanded, to really enjoy it in this time of year specifically too. It's just great, and I just wanted to say that.
I would echo those same comments. My wife and I walk there all the time. She walks there when she can, but she stays within view of the parking when she's alone. But no, it's great to have all that activity when you're doing that. So.
Absolutely. And I'd like to compliment you also, Mr. Tuckfield. But this was just an example of what we have to do and why we have to do it for other, projects that are come before us. So I appreciate that.
Here, here.
All right. Anything else? All right, then let's move on to the Macomb Township Board of Trustees liaison. The liaison's update, Mr. Charles Oliver.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last board meeting we had our noise ordinance that our planning and engineering and all departments worked very hard on it, and we had a full crowd. We had Workman Carlisle come in here and explain how they got to all these steps of the noise ordinance, and most people understood it, some didn't, but that's okay. Again, it's called freedom, and so it went well. It went very well, and you could really tell that our township has put a lot of effort into it. It was just, from our legal people to our planning and our engineering, it just wasn't a dart thrown at a wall. It was something that was a lot of thought. So again, I want to thank all the people that worked hard on it. The other thing is, our lieutenant, our police department lieutenant, her name is Melissa Stevens, has retired. After 25 years working in a county, she actually started in Macomb Township. She went all through, and then she's been our lieutenant. Now, I know nobody's worked in the county as long as.
Easy.
But, okay. So she got a plaque, and that was really nice to see that. So now we got a new lieutenant. Last thing, Pittsford Park, grand opening, Sunday, June 9th.
Oh.
So bring your dog, bring yourself.
All right.
Come, got plenty of parking now. And
Hot dogs, hamburgers, that sort of thing too? Yeah.
maybe hot dogs.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's
Right.
it.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Oliver? Okay.
I'm not saying anything.
ZBA liaison, Mr. Tuckfield?
Just that we have a meeting on Thursday, so a couple of us will be back here in another couple of days.
Okay. Planning Department items.
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay, meeting next, on the 3rd of the month, yes or no?
I believe there will be, yes.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Spatafora.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Meyerly. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned at 8:10. Thank you, everyone.
What you doing?
You guys do look very nice. You guys look
There should be.
All right, take a picture. Let's